Welcome back to the Make Money Make Sense show. This is Henry.
And Gemma.
In this video, we're going to cover what SAP is and maximum time frame, and we're going to add some additional fun facts. SAP has two components of its definition. One part is maintaining a cumulative GPA of 2.0 or higher. Another piece is a pace rate, which is defined by the completion percentage of the courses that you attempt, and that needs to be 67% or higher of all units attempted. Later we'll get into maximum time frame, but I think Gemma might have additional things to share.
Yeah. So we can walk you guys through how to find all of these things to see if you're eligible, SAP eligible. So first one is GPA. So you can find your GPA by going into WebSmart. This is WebSmart. Just click onto Student Services. And then it's under here in Student Records. You could just click View Unofficial Transcript. Go ahead and select the one that you want. So then here, this is my transcript, and you should be able to see the GPA right here. So I'm at a 3.0, which is good because you need a minimum of 2.0. So that's one thing you can check. And you can also check your pace rate here in WebSmart. So for pace rate, you calculate pace rate from units completed divided by the units attempted, and you'll get your pace rate. So back to the transcript. You could see your units attempted, which is this one, attempt hours, and then units completed would be earned hours right here. So then I believe you could go to transcript totals to make it go faster. And it's right here. Okay, perfect. So then we can use that same formula. I'll pull out my calculator. Hopefully that works. So units completed divided by units attempted. So then here's my completed hours, which are earned, which overall is 47. So I'll do that divided by the attempted hours, which is 64. And then when I equal it, we're at 70%. So not the best, but at least SAP eligible. Yeah.
So one thought that might be coming up is if I am going to fall out of good academic progress, satisfactory academic progress for one semester, does that mean I lose my financial aid? And my response would be no. So if you miss SAP for one semester, you will be placed in a WARN status. This will be reflected in your student financial aid portal. If you were to miss SAP for 2 consecutive semesters, you will be then on disqualification. When you're on disqualification, you can speak with your financial aid office to open up a financial aid appeal form. And Gemma had some thoughts to share on this appeal form. But before we begin with that, the chances that your appeal for falling out of SAP for the first time gets approved is extremely high. Hundreds of students do this form. Don't overthink it. There's 3 components to it. It is well worth your time to regain SAP to be able to get your financial aid. One last thing to tag along is your free college level 1 tuition waiver will still apply even if we're not in SAP. If you're eligible for free college level 2, that should still apply. It's more for your federal grants, such as your Pell Grants or work study or loans. That's when we really need to be making SAP.
And then the next one would be your maximum time frame. So all you have to do for this one is make sure you don't go over 150% of your attempted units. So for this, all you're going to do is find your program length in units and multiply that by 150% to see your max amount of units. A typical associate's degree program here at Skyline would be 60 units. So for example, 60 units times 150% would be 90 units, which is where you get the over 90.
This is also a super popular appeal that comes up because changing majors is a common thing. High unit majors is a common thing. Getting multiple majors and associates or certificates also happens. So if you are in a situation where you're up against maximum time frame, the appeal actually is shorter than your SAP appeal. You don't need to be doing the Get Counseling Essentials to SAP training certificates, which are videos with multiple choice questions. So just recognize that even though reach 90 units and need to exceed it here at the 2-year level, this is also an appeal that's worth your time to complete. Our appeals do have a deadline though, so please contact your financial aid office in terms of when you would want to meet that deadline, but recognize that appeals sound like a pain in the butt because they kind of are, but these are actually one of the ways that financial aid staff can advocate for students so that they can continue getting their aid, and that we as a department continue to remain and follow regulations so that we get the funding necessary to be able to fund many students.
And then for the appeal, even though it seems like it's kind of a lengthy process, because that's what I had thought too, I'm really grateful that I ended up doing it anyway, because you just get all the access to the aid, and even if you assume that you don't need it or the process would be super lengthy, it's not that hard once you actually get down to it. And we can go over also what's going to be in the form. So this is what your appeal form is going to look like. It should be in your WebSmart. Yes, WebSmart. So then if you go into your financial aid on WebSmart in your portal, it should be, I think this is mine.
So we're providing the status of when you have completed your financial aid appeal, but it's exactly right. You would want to go into WebSmart, which is the first bullet point underneath financial aid that reads financial aid student portal. When you open that up in your home, all these requirements are important. So please take your time to read them and satisfy them. Anything that is in blue, you can actually click. So prior to Gemma completing her appeal and getting it approved, this was actually blue. So when you click on that, it opens up this form.
This is what the form looks like. So we're in Skyline.
Real quick now, if you want to go back up. So these are actually the deadlines. So if you have a SAP or maximum time frame or a prior associate's degree appeal that is outstanding, please note this timeline or deadline to submit that appeal, because deadlines do matter. If you miss that deadline, let's say you were eligible for $1,000 of Pell Grant, you're actually not going to be able to get that. So don't miss your deadlines. Put them on your own calendar.
Okay. So then these are the 3 different SAP requirements that we saw earlier. And then you would just click on the one that you need because each one has different requirements. So I believe, yes. So this one, if you're not meeting the pace rate, GPA, or the time frame, you would have to do those online counseling sessions, which you could find here on this link. For these, you have to watch videos, and then at the end, when you complete all the quizzes, you get a certificate, and then you would submit that certificate.
Yeah. I've done these videos one too many times. I'm trying to propose that we don't force students to have to do these videos because they are kind of lengthy. That proposal is still in progress. So if you have a SAP appeal or any, these are only for SAP appeals. They're not for maximum time frame. They're not for prior associate's degree holders. You do need to register, so you don't sign in using your one login or WebSmart right away. You would need to register to be able to access these 2 courses. The tip I have for these 2 courses is they're about 20 to 30 minutes each, and they have multiple choice questions scattered throughout. They say that there's 3 attempts for each of the multiple choice questions. However, because there's 4 answers per question, it makes it seem like you can take 2 free swings, like how we would normally do in terms of approaching multiple choice questions. But just recognize every attempt or every swing that you take per multiple choice question, they actually track that. And if you don't pass, you're going to have to redo it. So in short, try to focus. You're welcome to use ChatGPT, assuming you read the explanation behind why the answer is the correct answer, to help you get these courses done the first time you attempt them, so you don't waste any more time than you need to. My general feeling is if we actually walk students over to the Learning Center or help them stay accountable to do a peer mentor or peer tutoring session, it's a lot more valuable than these certificates, but that is in the proposal phase.
Thank you. And then the next requirement is going to be to get an SAP or student educational plan, and then you would attach it. If you don't know how to do the SAP yet, then all you do, here we go. So all I did was log into my student success link. If you just search up student success link SMCCD, it should pop up. Or you could also go into one login, and it should be right here. Seen a success link. I'll go to this one because it's already loaded. And then all you have to do is click on My Appointments up here and then schedule an appointment. And depending if you're in a learning community, then you would know that you already have a counselor. But if you're not in a learning community, you can do any of these. I believe on your page, it will show you what your counselors available to you are. But because I'm in Promise, I'm going to select my Promise dedicated counselor. And then it should be an academic. And then SAP is the same thing as just educational planning. So then you would do the educational planning complete plan, and then you would just schedule with the date and time that you want. And then, of course, schedule the appointment with your counselor. I'm not going to actually do it, but you would click on this and then it'll go through. Yeah.
Yeah, right on. So cool. I never even seen that before, so I'm happy to have seen that for the first time. It's worth noting when you do arrive at appointment that you communicate directly that you'll need a comprehensive student educational plan. That's just not an abbreviated one. That typically means there's more than three semesters or more courses planned out. And it's worth noting for your counselor to get that then and there so that you don't have to go back. Right? It doesn't mean that you have to follow your comprehensive SEP to the dot. For SAP purposes, no, but if you're on max time frame, yes.
And then once you finish those two, you're almost done. The last one would just be to fill out the appeal letter. And then in the appeal letter, you're just going to explain all of your circumstances for why you believe you should be considered for reviewing your appeal. You say to be specific and submit any supporting documentation and how you intend to resolve the circumstances.
For students who are doing the over 90 maximum time frame appeal, when we select this second option, notice that it still is available for you to attach a copy of your certificates from the getcounseling.com, but you will not be doing that. And for the statement piece, the appeal letter, Gemma, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think these 3 bullet points are actually they're in the next pages. In other words, it's not recommended that you write a Word document and then download the Word document, because the questions that they're asking for the student appeal letter is in the next pages.
Yes, correct. Maybe the bachelor's?
This form has 3 functions. We were previously discussing SAP and maximum time frame. If you have earned a prior Associates of Arts or an Associates of Science degree, you will actually also need to do this form, but it's worth it because financial aid pays big bucks and helps you become eligible for things that you otherwise would always be ineligible for. For the Associates, prior Associates degree, there is no SAP videos, so there's no Get Counseling certificates that are needed, although it says that you can attach a copy here. But there is a comprehensive student educational plan and a student appeal letter. Okay, and the letter is short answer questions that we recommend writing PI paragraphs to. PI is an acronym that stands for Point Information Explanation. So just do those on the next page. Any final thoughts, Jim? Maybe words of motivation for students who are in disqualification status, who want to get out of that and be in quote-unquote probation status. But probation status is great because we are receiving our financial aid in probation status. And we can actually get out of it if we continue to meet SAP from semesters.
I think it's definitely worth it. I had to do a SAP appeal, and at first I wasn't sure if I even wanted to do it because I kept failing those questions, but it was worth it in the end because I was able to continue working work study. And then in the spring semester, I was able to get full-time Pell Grants and scholarships. So all 3 of those opportunities wouldn't have been available if I just gave up the first time I failed the SAP appeal, which is not saying that you're going to fail it. You guys got this, but yeah, it's definitely worth it to take the time and just finish it because it still unlocks all of your financial aid again.
Persistence. One thing I'm hearing from that is persistence pays out and pays big bucks. And the last thing I'll end with is, so it's true that in a snap of a finger, if we were able to award all students who are Pell Grant eligible their Pell Grants, does that guarantee that students will then live a life that they'll love? No, there's no guarantee, right? In fact, if we had a money back guarantee, we would actually advertise that. Like, get this degree, get this credential, and if you don't get real value out of it, or if you don't land the job that you want, you can have your money back. And most importantly, your time, right? So, does financial aid solve that problem? No. But because we believe in students, we encourage you to start taking seriously the questions on your mind, whether it be who do I want to be working with? How do I want to be spending my time? All these much more beautiful questions than what do you want to be when you grow up, right? That's just not a great guiding question for career development. So there are a bunch of labs on this page that I'll link in the show notes that you can do, and it's supposed to accelerate your progress in literally forging a life that you'll end up loving and giving you more freedoms. And so maybe one last note on scholarships, Gemma, on how that impacted you.